Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood, so I am relentless.
Welcome to the Keep Hammering Collective. I'm Cameron Haynes, and I'm here with Rich Froning. It's a great honor.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Man, I never thought, you have these goals for starting a podcast, and my thing is, I always said I hate podcasts.
Yep.
Because I feel like I'm not an interesting person, but I can facilitate a conversation with a legend or an outlier, and that's you. You're all of the above.
Well, you're definitely an interesting person for sure. So it's an honor for us to be here and to hang out and get to do what you do basically for yesterday.
Oh, it was great. And you'd never been to Oregon before, right?
I'd been to Portland once, but not anything longer than maybe 24 hours. So I didn't actually get out and do anything cool like we did yesterday.
Yeah. What a great day. Getting, Rich Froning here to Oregon and training with you and learning, just hearing more about your journey and your mindset. This is the whole point to this discussion and this podcast is outliers is what I'm attracted to, just because to be the best at anything takes a certain set of skills, and you rose to the top in CrossFit, best in the world for multiple years. And how does that happen?
Yeah, we talked about it this morning. I think it's just the perfect storm of things coming together. I think obviously genetics play handily into that. You can outrun genetics a little bit, but not completely. I had really good parents growing up. My faith is a huge part of who I am. And then also playing sports growing up and having really good mentors and coaches in sports and learning a ton through that. So I think it's hard to pinpoint one thing. I think it's a bunch of things that came together perfectly.
Yeah, because, I'm not a big CrossFit guy. I'm a big icon guy though, and you're an icon. So just like I was saying, I never biked and did any Tour de France stuff, but I loved watching Lance. I feel the same about you, where I didn't do CrossFit, but I loved watching you compete and win. But so from the outside in, here's my point.
Yeah.
Every guy there looks shredded. Every guy's coming in shape. Every guy obviously trains. So why do you beat every single other guy if you say these are all genetic freaks, essentially?
Yeah, they all are.
You said part of it's genetics.
Yep.
So what makes you stand apart? Do you think, is it a mental? Is it?
Yeah, I would say, if you're really getting down into the weeds of it, most guys there and the girls on the women's side are genetic freaks. They're outliers for sure. But I think the missing piece is, like I said, the mental side of it that came from, I think I was one of the first ones to really play or do CrossFit kind of as a sport. So, like a lot of guys in my era when I first started were, I'm just going to stay in my lane and just do what I can. But I was always watching and trying to either play games with them while we were competing, or you're kind of watching and pushing them more than they want to be pushed, or just trying to kind of assess the situation as it went versus just staying completely hyper focused on what I was doing. You're still got to be moving around and watching, and I think, like I said, that came from sport. But then also if you look at like I said, playing high school baseball, we ran more than the track and cross country team. A lot of the times we always joked because Coach Chaffin, our baseball coach, was big on mental toughness. He didn't know, he always says he was doing CrossFit before CrossFit was cool. We did just a ton of circuit type stuff, but then also we would just run. And so it was more of a mental conditioning than it was even physical. And so it was, I think that laid the foundation for, and I just always had this kind of inner drive of, I was who I am at my core as a competitor. I hate to lose. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to try to win. And so I think that, like I said, all those things coupled together made me the competitor that I was.
Yeah. Well,
or am, I guess.
And so when you were in the heat of the moment, could you look at other athletes and see if there was I know everybody has to have a poker face, but could you see if there's a chink in the armor?
Yeah, depending on the workout, and also watching videos that, CrossFit at the time and still is, it was one of those things that people were putting out content. So you could kind of see, all right, I know, or back when I was first starting, we had, and they're getting back to that where everybody did the same workouts at each point. So you had the open where everybody did the same workout. You had regionals where everybody did the same workout, and then you had the games. So you kind of had an idea of, hey, this person's really good at this. Hey, this person's really good at this. Or you kind of had an idea of either a weakness or a strength, So it was like, and I would, on certain events, if I knew I wasn't going to win that event, hey, how can I damage control here and not lose points? You learn that too as you go. It's a long weekend. It's, for us, when it first started, it was like Friday to Sunday, and then it's evolved to this thing where it's Wednesday through Sunday. So it's a bit of an endurance event because you're doing multiple events throughout the day.
Right.
And so, all right, how can I, not take a huge loss here on an event that I know that is not my, in my wheelhouse,
forte, yeah.
and still, stay competitive. And then when it's my time to shine and it's an event that I know I can throttle down on, then I'll throttle down on it. And then, you're playing that game all weekend, and then hopefully by Sunday you're just kind of in cruise control.
Yeah.
And so, I think early on I was one of the first ones to really kind of start doing that. And then, I think a lot of people are doing that now. They've kind of figured out, hey, it's a one event at a time, but you're also playing big picture at the same time.
Do you ever go, I think maybe your first win, did I read that you won like most of the events, or?
I won a few events. I can't remember, probably, usually on Sunday. Sunday was usually the day where I won a lot of events because everybody was kind of run down to that point. And the training that we had done, we were probably one of the first ones to do multiple workouts a day. Like when I first started CrossFit, you can't do more than one workout a day. That intensity it's gonna kill you. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
And so I remember the first day we did 2 workouts. Like we did a workout in the morning, and then that afternoon we were bored. We're like, hey, you want to try to work out again? We're like, I don't know. They say you're gonna die.
Daily doubles.
And so, that was early on, and we didn't die. So we were like, we can work out twice a day now. And then it evolved into like 3 or 4 times a day, and where we're at now. So we've kind of, I've grown up with the sport as it's evolved and as it's changed. And so, it was just a different world, like when I first started, now there's all these machines that you can use. We got air runners, we got different bikes, we got, rowers, ski ergs. But back in my day, we did more barbell stuff, and then you do more body weight stuff for cardio. There was no you couldn't just hop on a different machine and do those things. So it's fun, and that's why I really enjoy CrossFit. There's just so many different things to work on that you start to get better at one thing and something else falls off. So it's not just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. With that, so you added on all that training. It sounds like you started with daily doubles and triples and whatever else. So how were you recovering? What did you find that helped your body be able to step back up and put in more work?
We were talking about this morning when you were saying, we were asking how do you run all these miles and your body not fall apart, and you're like, just genetics really. And I think for me it was genetics. I think having good movement, good mobility, which you get basically through genetics. I mean, obviously you can work on some mobility, but really stepping back when I first started and trying to learn proper technique on everything and being efficient, like you were saying, over 20 miles in an inefficiency in running is going to cost you. And then over 200 miles, it's going to cost you even more. And so I think that's really what helped me across the weekend as I moved well. And then by Sunday, where everybody else was kind of falling apart and they had these little inconsistencies in their movement, I was good to go. And so usually by Sunday, I wasn't as beat up as everybody else.
And did that give you a big confidence boost going in that last day? Because you knew in your head that you were better prepared for, I mean, I'm more in your into the storm.
That's right. Yeah, love it.
I mean, is that mentality? So where they might be faltering or wondering, how is this guy never getting tired? You were conversely getting more confident.
Yeah. You play head games, and we always joked. And I was talking to somebody the other day at this Waterpalooza, one of the younger athletes, and I'm asking them how they're feeling, and I'm sore. And I'm like, you never tell anybody you're sore.
Yeah.
You're tight. Everything's just tight. No, I'm just a little tight. I feel good. You know, you could be dying on the inside, but
right.
as soon as you let somebody know you're sore or you're hurting, then it's that little, they got that edge, you know, and you were talking about getting the edge. And so, yeah, you're never sore. It's just tight. I'm just a little tight, you know, like running 20 miles yesterday. I'm just a little tight, you know?
Oh, you did great. And I mean, I did want to reference the point where you said you do everything, I think, controlled or measured. I noticed lifting yesterday, form is the opposite of my form. My form is terrible.
Hey, you did good. You did good.
But your form on everything was just impeccable, doing perfect reps. And it's like, man, that's got to be the key.
It's the key. So it's exactly what you were saying with running. You know, like if you've got incredible technique, it's probably genetic. It just happens the way it is. But the less movement, the less, you know, we always talk about in CrossFit, there's like intensity versus technique versus intensity. So they shouldn't be two separate things at odds with each other, but you're going to every once in a while, if you're, you know, when you get to that point where you're racing somebody at the end of a race, you're probably going to push a little bit outside your technique, but you don't want to ever, it's like NASCAR. We always say like, you want to push that line of how fast you can go with just barely kissing that wall or not touching that wall at all. And so, I think, you know, there's definitely a technique aspect, especially if we're just having fun yesterday, throwing down a little bit and doing a pump sesh. So I'm not really pushing that line of like trying to go really fast, wanting to maintain and I think we do a lot of that type of stuff is like, all right, you know, some stuff we do is for time and some stuff is, you know, a pure CrossFit workout, but we do a lot of technique work. We do a lot of kind of what I would say building a little bit of volume under fatigue with good technique, not sacrificing, so that when it does come down to crunch time, if we have to go a little faster, you can go a little faster, but you've built all this volume with good technique, it just kind of falls into place. Yeah.
And I think that was evident. We talked about that clip too, that as I said, I'm more of a fan, so I've watched these clips, but you had that one team event where the team ahead of you're in second place, I believe, but they did get 6 reps.
They were stuck 7 thrusters. Yep.
Oh, 7 thrusters. Yep. They were stuck and you guys walked up in control and tell me what happened.
Yeah. So it was an event where, we were the second pair to go and the first pair had gone and we'd kind of eaten into the lead that I think actually it was almost dead even with another team. So it was me and Andrea that had showed up and it was our turn and we had to do, I think it was 5 rounds of 7 wall walks and 7 thrusters. And we had to do them synchronized at the same time. And so as we're going, the team would beat us on the wall walks. So it's more of a gymnastic style movement. And then when we'd get to the barbell, we would catch them. And it started where we would do 4 and 3 and we would just kind of slowly eat into their lead. And then they would beat us on the wall. And so then they started kind of getting a little bit ahead of us. But I saw while we were doing our wall walks, I would peek up and just see what was going on. And I could see that they, instead of breaking it in 2 sets, they were starting to break it in 3 and 4 sets. So like maybe hitting 2, 2, 2 and 1 or something like
Getting gassed.
And so I saw the chink in the armor. Yeah. And so Andrea is super strong. She's incredibly strong. And I knew she wanted to get right to that barbell and hit it. But I thought if we, in hindsight, it was the right call. If we would have hopped right on that barbell, we would have had to break. So she's ready, and I'm like, hey, chill, we got this. Like, you got to, like, we're good to go.
And they're the other team's trying to get reps.
And they can feel it, you know, like you just feel it. And, you know, I've had a couple moments like that in my career, but that was a fun one. But it was, I had the confidence that we were going to hit. In it, I'm like, all right, if we get 4-3, we'll probably be all right.
Yeah.
But let's just go ahead and try to hit this 7 right here. And about rep 4, the crowd starts chanting. And so you're like, dang it, now I got to hang on to this. And so she did an incredible job. And, you know, I've got this little like thing on my neck from doing so much barbell stuff. I think my skin is just thin to this point. And so it's bleeding and wearing a white shirt. So there's this blood and you know, everybody's cheering and they're counting 5 and you're like, oh no, I don't know if I can do 2 more, but I don't want to be that, because there's no worse feeling than the crowd getting hyped and then hearing from the whole crowd. So you're like, I got to do this. And so luckily that one turned out all right. And so we hit our 7 reps, but man, it's there's just something to it, you know, like being a competitor and being in those moments that, you know, you feed off of the energy of the crowd. You know, you don't get that, you know, like on that mountain, that's what's really impressive about what you did yesterday and what we were doing yesterday with you running, man. That was, nobody's watching. And that's the hard point. That's the hard part. Nobody sees the, you know, hours and hours of training that goes into it. And then you get to those moments and then you get to like, you get that crowd noise and you get that energy, and there's nothing like it.
Right. Well, I mean, it's awesome to watch all your hard work pay off, and the crowd, I'm sure when you hit that 7th rep, just exploded.
It went crazy. And then I'm, you know, you get emotional in your celebrations and get fired up. My kids now, it's so funny because they are getting to the age that they kind of realize what's going on, and they've been to the games now once or twice. And this year we took all 3 of them, which was a disaster. But Trice now will run around, like if he does something, like he loves flipping his bottle, you know, and they try to land it or whatever. And he'll flip it 50 times, but when it lands, he's like, let's go, you know, like flexes. And or like if I finish an event and we've either won the event by a pretty good margin, it's hard to celebrate when you've done that. But like, he gets so mad at me if I don't, you know, like flex and yell. Yeah. Because that's just kind of, you know, it's just my natural, I guess, go-to is you don't even think about it in the moment and you're fired up. And Trice, he just doesn't understand. He's like, Dad, like I'll finish an event and I'm walking towards the finish line. He's like, why didn't you flex and yell? And I'm like, just didn't need to, buddy, you know?
Does he have the headband, like the Rich Froning headband?
No, the headband got, you know, that was one of those things that I in college, we used to play a ton of flag football, and I wore a headband, and I did that for years, and people loved it. And so then I kind of hung on to it for a while, and then I just got too old for it. I'm like, you know, 30-year-old man wearing a headband, you know, I don't need to do that.
If you're winning.
Yeah.
I mean, Rodman got away with a lot of crazy outfits
Rodman
for a while.
Got away with a lot of stuff.
So I think you could do a headband. Yeah. What of your victories or moments is the most cherished from the games, from all the work, the 13-year career, all that? What stands out?
Oh man, you know, I feel like my individual career is like so long ago. I look back and I'm like, man, you know, it's funny because I'm 35 now and I've got all these kids that are 20 years old, and I'm like, I think I'm one of them. And then I start thinking, I'm like, man, they were 12 years old, or, you know, when I was winning the games and stuff like that. So, you know, as an individual, one of the best ones was the final one, just stepping off the floor and, you know, having the crowd and having my family right there. It's pretty, you know, there's some cool documentation of it in the documentary that they did years ago. That was cool, being able to share that and having my first daughter, Lakeland. So individual wise, that was probably one of the cooler moments. And then, man, all my team ones have been cool. Like there's just something to being part of a team and being part of a group of people that you get to share the suffering day in and day out, see their sacrifice. No, you know, I know what they're going through, but being able to share that with them and then winning, there's nothing you can replace that with. That, you know, you get to kind of the highs and lows together, and then winning. You know, obviously this year meant a lot too, because knowing this was my last year on the team and having my kids right there, all 3 of my kids, my wife right there at the finish line, finishing, doing some bar muscle ups and looking at my kids and kind of, you know, they're like looking at me and being able to make the eye contact. But yeah, I think each year had his special moments to it, you know, but I would say probably the last of each, you know, just knowing that they were the last, and being able to, like, you know, win obviously on your last attempt, and being able to walk off.
Why was this one the last one?
I just, you know, it's been, and you know, there's a lot of talk of me saying I'm retired, because I wouldn't necessarily say it. My wife she was so mad at me that she wanted this big, like, CrossFit to, like, make this post and, like, hey, this is Rich's last one. You know, we want to honor him, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't tell him. I'm like, she's like, you're not done, are you? And so I said, it's going to be a year to year thing, depending on the kids, depending on, I'm now in the masters category. So, you know, it's the only thing I'm good at is working out. So I got, you know, I'm going to be working out anyway. I'm going to be around all these kids, and I can't just sit there and watch. And, you know, I can coach a little bit, but I'd rather be in there. My leadership style is I'm going to get in there and do it with you. You know, I'm not going to just tell you to do something and not do it too, and not suffer. So if I'm fit enough and feel like I can compete each year or whatever year it is in the Masters, I'll do it. But yeah, Hillary, she's still to the point where, you know, my kids are getting older, you know, I don't want to miss things. And in the summer, especially because it's the time that we're training the hardest. And so, if I feel like, hey, we can still do some family stuff and get some trips in or do whatever and be present, then yeah, I'll train and try to compete. But if that year I don't feel like, and I'm not going to just show up, you know, I would not be okay with that. So it'll be a year-to-year thing. But yeah, it was just 7 years of being on a team of you know, navigating other people's schedules and all that type of stuff, where now if it's just me, like if I don't feel like I'm letting somebody down if I can't get a workout in because of my kids. And then also, you know, I can do it on my time. Like I could get up a little earlier or find a time to get a training session in. So I think it just makes sense with the point that I'm at in life. You know, seasons are different, and who knows, years down the road, we'll see where we're at. But I have to compete. I have to do something. Like I can't, that's just who I am. It's in my nature. And like I said, I'm not good at anything else. So, well, yeah, I'm not sure about that. It sounds like you got a lot of irons in the fire. We do have probably too many irons in the fire. But
yeah, I loved hearing all the stories about all the work you're doing in different, I mean, with the filming, with the farm, with everything you've got going. It's pretty exciting. But so I was thinking, as you were saying that about the kids and their busy times and all that, they're once maybe a family vacation, but man, with the kids getting older, seeing dad be a beast.
I know. Yeah. No, it is cool to like,
instead of just stories of dad.
Yeah. That used to be my dad, you know?
That guy?
That guy?
Yeah. That guy with the belly?
That guy's my dad. Yeah. That probably won't ever happen, you know? Like it's cool, man. My kids, you know, we were saying that they go to the gym with me every day, you know, or in the barn or in the basement, or I've got a gym in my basement. I've got a gym in the barn. I've got the actual CrossFit Mayhem. And so I've never once told those kids, hey, let's do a workout. They're always the ones that are like, hey, dad, can we work out with you? And I'm like, yeah. So, you know, they've got their little fake barbells, 5-pound barbells. They've got PVC pipes. Man, the other day we walked out of the training facility in the back, the athlete facility, and I walked back in. And Lakeland's got a friend there. And so Lakeland is in there, her friend, and then my two little ones. And I walk in, and nobody else is in there except for them. And they've set up. They're doing shuttle runs. They walk up. They've got 5-pound dumbbells, and they're doing dumbbell snatches.
Doing
and then
nice circuit.
And walking over and then hitting the GHD sit-ups.
Yeah.
And man, it was just like, it was cool. You know, it was one of those things that you're like, all right, they're learning something. And, you know, like I've never once been like, hey, you guys got to work out. It's just they want to do it, and they want to be with dad. And it just makes you realize how much kids are watching, and so how important that is that they see that. And that's what I like about them being around the gym, like especially, you know, Trice. And it's easier, I think, for guys to like see that and, oh yeah, that's what I want to be. But seeing my girls be around strong women that are competitors as well. And we've got some that got a little bit of, you know, like that touch of nasty, like I was saying yesterday. And I think it's awesome that they're around that, and it's okay. It's okay to be strong. And so it's cool.
Hey, life is competition.
That's right.
No matter what you do, it's like, I think that's a lesson anybody can learn. And sometimes we forget because we can get by life without digging deep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can be, but if you want to be rise to the top in anything, it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, and you need to seek out challenges. And, you know, you went into the storm. That's kind of what the end of storm is for us, is like, hey, we don't go looking for trouble. But there's things that are going to come, and if we face them and head through them, and all good things come from hard work and through adversity. You know, nobody gets better just sitting still and being stagnant. And that's kind of what that means for us.
Is there pressure, like in that team environment? Is everybody looking to you? And like, are you setting the tone for the attitude? And is that hard? Because there's days where you're probably not feeling your best.
Right. We've luckily, over the last couple of years, we've had some really good athletes on the team that, you know, I guess you could say I was the captain, but there was really a lot of these people didn't need motivation for the training. It was more of like, hey, calm down. We're going to be all right.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of settling more than anything. And that was something that I've learned over the years. Different people need different, cues, different motivation, you know, not, you know, some people need to be loved on, some people need to be pushed, some people you can talk to. Like, I'm not a nurturer that's not my love language for sure. You know, I'm not, if anybody like having
tough love,
having girls on the team, every once in a while we had some criers, and I just clam up and kind of walk away. You know, like I don't know what to do. Even with my wife, she's like crying, and I'm like, you okay? You know, and so
Rub some dirt on it.
luckily, I've had some other guys that could handle those situations a little better. Like I said, my leadership style was more like, hey, I'm going to be here and suffer with you. And then, but then there's some, like I have one of my buddies, we were in an event in Miami, and it was the final event, and we're just getting buried, and it's a hard workout, and it's the last thing. We're doing worm clean and jerks. It's this heavy, awkward sandbag thing. You're going up and over, and we're kind of back and forth with this team, and and Dre's he's hurting a little bit, so he like gets down in the crouch position, and so I walk over to him, and I'm in his ear, and Dre's one that you've got to just tell him how big of a piece of shit he is, basically. And so I'm just
him.
I'm just laying into him, right?
Yeah.
But real calm, like,
right.
Hey, you pick up this worm, like some choice words in there. And he nods his head, and that's just Dre, like he's gonna do it. And so I lay into him, and so I walk off the floor, and one of the guys that we were competing with, he's like, hey, what were you saying to Dre? It looked like, you really, whatever you said was really, got him going, and you were real calm. And I was like, there was nothing productive said in that. Like it was just like dog cussing him and basically like, hey, you look like an idiot. Like just, but he needs, like, he's a guy that needs that, and you got to tell him that, where, some people needed to be like, hey, it's going to be okay. We're all right, And so it's fun. And I learned a ton about people and business too, how do you motivate different people? And I think, like I said, that's the benefit to playing organized sports as a kid too, is relating to people.
Yeah, I agree with that. So who do you think has pushed you most in training? Is it you pushing yourself, or are you thinking about somebody out there sending a message?
Yeah, I think, different years were different things. Like I said, from the beginning, my faith has been a huge part of it. I just feel like that was my talents are from God, and my way to glorify him is through that. And then, as a competitor, you make villains in your head, and you have people that you kind of, watch the Last Dance documentary with Jordan.
Yeah, of course.
And, how he just kind of, and I hadn't seen that until probably I actually watched it this year right before the games. And I'm like, man, there's so many similar, like, you just see one little thing and you're like, oh, I hate that person.
I get that. I get that mindset.
Yeah. And so like, you're like, oh, I really don't like them. And then you get to the competition, you actually talk to them. No, I like everybody, but I'm saying, like, in competition, you make these villains in your head. And so you just kind of like, all right, I'm going to beat them. And then you meet them, or, like you see them for one of the times, you're like, oh, they're not that bad. Dang it. I screwed that up. But, it's just kind of the mentality of where it was at. And you, especially for us on teams, the last couple of years, it's like, oh, that team, like this last year, there was a team that was supposed to beat us. And so
really?
They were our, they're your villains for the year. And
how'd they do?
They got, I think, fourth. So it was, it was fun.
They did not beat you.
They did not beat us. And so it was, there's just always, you got to have those little things. And then now, like I was saying with my kids, like knowing that my kids are watching, and they want, like, I want them to see that, hey, it's okay. And dad was who they said he was. So
is.
Yeah, he was, is, same thing.
Yeah. Well, so you talked about like a great success. What's been a toughest part of your games experience?
I've had several public failures. Falling off the rope would be the first one. You can Google that. My daughter came home from school one day, and she's like, hey, because her PE teacher I went to college with, she's like, Miss Amy, we were climbing the cargo net, and she said, don't fall off like your dad. What is that? I was like, thanks, Miss Amy.
Oh, man.
And so I got to show her that video, because that was way before her time.
Yeah.
And so, I've had that. I had a really poor event in a swimming event in 2013, very public. That's the hard part about all my failures, are they're very public.
Right.
And then walking in an event in 2014, got a little bit of press time, airtime for that. And so, any of those moments where you compete and you look like an idiot or do something stupid, or you got to be able to bounce back from that, and that's, something that I learned while I was competing was it's such a long weekend.
Yeah.
And there's so many events.
Right.
One event most likely won't break you, but if you let that snowball and it keeps getting worse and worse, then you're going to, there was one time in 2013 where started off okay, not great, had that swim event that was bad, and then kind of made a bounce back, and I feel like in second or third or something like that, and I'm up in the stands kind of in between events, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, and I'm talking to my wife, and usually most people I don't really talk like that around, but I'm talking to Hillary. I'm like, God, I just suck, blah, 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 whatever. She's like, go get your stuff. I'm like, what? She's like, go get your stuff. We're going home. I was like, I can't go home. She's like, tell them you're leaving. I was like, shut up. And she's like, then quit being a baby and, whatever. So, and she has no idea anything about CrossFit or she could care less, and that's one of the great things.
New
is
attitude.
Like, it's one of those things that like, I don't have to worry about my performance because she would actually probably rather that I lose. So I just stop doing it, like, so, but yeah, she was just like, go get your stuff. I'm like, all right, I'll stop feeling sorry for myself. And, so. And everything turned out all right. So it was.
Did you win?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I started. But of course she takes the credit for that. She's like, see,
without me, you're nothing.
Exactly.
Do you guys talk smack? Like competing?
Not really. This year was one of the first years that I've ever talked to another team or
really?
We'll kind of joke around sometimes. It was more of a joke. This year there was a team at semifinals, and so this event was at 3, 2, 1 go. All 4 people had to do these heavy wall balls, and then you walked over to that worm, that big heavy sandbag, and you did 12 deadlifts as a team, and then I can't remember the deadlifts, and then you had to lunge it. And so there's no end to this workout because it's 4 rounds and there's a minute transition between each, and you're just lunging. Basically, you had to get through the work to lunge the worm as far as you could each time.
Oh, I see.
And there was us and another team that were so far ahead of everybody. And so you're kind of like, I don't want to have to do any more work.
Right.
Because I'm blowing myself out, and we've already kind of locked this up, but this other team is kind of right here. And so we're staying a couple blocks ahead of them, squares, which is a point basically. And so we're just like, everybody's on our team's trying to, hey, pick it up. I'm like, watch them.
Yeah.
When they pick it up, we'll pick it up. And so I see them get to the worm, and they're kind of standing there. And I'm friends with the guy. His name's Ryan. And he's looking at me. He's like, pick the effing worm up. And I'm like, you pick it up. So I'm standing there like, and that was one of the first. He's like, pick it up. And I'm like, why the hell would I pick it up if I don't have to? I was like, make us pick it up. And so we're just back and forth jawing. And then after it, we're like laughing about it. But on the floor, I was like, man, F this guy, but it was fun, it was cool. It was one of the first moments that I've ever had like a little, back and forth on the floor. So
I'm surprised because normally competition brings out, I just think when we used to shoot together, as you know, with archery, we were practicing yesterday, but all your anchor points, the technique is so critical. And all we'd do is we'd be betting money on targets, and all you'd have to do is you look at somebody getting ready to shoot, and you'd be like, "Oh, you always anchor like that?" We did. Okay, it looks like you're.
He looks off.
Then they're thinking about what am I?
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Then you start pulling the string into your face more, or you start doing something different. Then that, at a long shot makes a big difference.
Heck yeah, it does.
So I didn't know if that.
Oh yeah, back up in the warm up area, especially, it was more of like a joke. Like there was a couple of us that became really good friends early on, or like Josh Bridges, a good friend of mine, Dan Bailey, Jason Kalipa, Matt Chan, a bunch of those guys that I've competed with for years when I was younger. We're still friends, but yeah, we'd kind of like, as we're warming up, as the weekend would go on and nerves kind of settled a little bit, you'd be like, oh man, you always snatch like that. Oh, that didn't look like Jason. We were doing the Rogue Invitational. This was last year. And they have a Legends edition or Legends category, and so a bunch of us that used to compete, we will team up and different workouts and whatever. And so Jason's talking, and he's jacked, he's huge, and he's like, yeah, I've been kind of trying to cut weight so I look a little bit better. And we always mess with Jason, me and Josh, and he's like, because we'd take our shirt off, it was hot, and he goes, you think I should take? I think I may take my shirt off. Me and Josh are like, let's see. And he's like, goes to take his shirt up. And he's like, we're like, oh no, don't do that. And he's like, wait, what? And that was right as we were running on the floor. Yeah. And so we were just messing with him. We're like, hey, what watts are you going to hold on the bike? And we like completely lied to him, or I had him convinced that I was going to go first in one of this workout that was like a partner relay. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to go first too, and I'm going to try to beat you on it. And so right when we walk out there, I talked to Julie, who was on my team for that event. I was like, hey, you go first just to mess with Jason, because it didn't matter. We're just out there like as a exhibition. And so Jason hammers, and I look over, and he looks over, and he's like, he could just see it on his face that I wasn't out there.
To be you,
so it's those types of things, especially as we've gone on, have happened. But yeah, there's not a ton of trash talk. Everybody's kind of like, hyper focused and just kind of in their own zone for the most part.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe because there's always you talk shit, then you whatever blow up.
Yep.
Hit, you said you had to walk or something after you talk. That's not good.
That's one of the cool things about CrossFit is you may win the games, but you got your ass kicked on a bunch of workouts. You know, like it's because it's multiple
you can't
events.
Win them all,
you're not winning all events, so you're losing more than you're actually winning most of the time. So I honestly, the most physical it gets is any mass swim. Because it's chaos.
Yeah, in the water.
In the water.
Right.
People are freaking out. And I actually had an event one time where we're going around a buoy and I felt somebody, and it's a mass of people, and I'm super comfortable in the water now that I've swam for probably 7-8 years now. And like, if you gotta have this mentality of like, you're either a shark or you're a minnow. And if you're the shark, then nothing really phases me. Like I can get hit, kicked, whatever. And just like know that it's freaking them out even more. So like sometimes you like, just mess with people's toes. Like I've done that. Like you get right behind them and like just tickle their, and they're like, it messes with them. So we're going around this buoy and there's this mass group of people. Well, I feel somebody grab my shorts and push me down. And so my natural reaction is to swing as hard as I possibly can with an elbow. And I caught temple. And I was like, well, see you later. And it turns out later, it was one of the guys that we were talking about this morning. And he was like, yeah, I got a little panicky and I grabbed onto somebody. I don't know who it was. And I was just like, I know who it was.
Yeah.
But it was not a panic grab.
Yeah.
It was a grab,
intentional.
pull, and then push down.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, nah, we ain't playing that game, homie.
Yeah.
And so I swung as hard as I could. And I know I caught temple. And I was like, ooh, well,
yeah. God. Yeah. That's pretty interesting. I love what competition brings out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, everybody wants to win.
Yeah.
Only one's
going to win.
Yeah. So in regard to like the CrossFit legacy, do you ever, have people always talk about, well, Jordan is the best. Where's Kobe? Where's LeBron? Do you ever feel inclined, do these young guys ever call you out? Like the guys.
I mean, there's obviously the Froning Fraser thing, and it's just different, it was different eras, different careers, different. I mean, Matt's an incredible competitor. And
you guys went head to head.
We went head to head once. It was early on in his career. It was the last year of mine. I think the year before, he competed 1 year before that and didn't make it through regionals. I can't remember, but the year that we competed, he got second. And so, Matt was an incredible competitor, and it's just different, like it's hard to compare eras. I'm a NASCAR guy. I grew up watching NASCAR. That was kind of our family vacations, but like the Dale Earnhardt Petty thing, or like you're saying, Kobe and Jordan, and so it's just different eras. It's hard to compare. Like I said, Matt's an incredible competitor, and did some incredible things. He's won more individual titles than me. But it's just different. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun with kids and having the kids in there now that are all training, and just, hey, old man's still here every once in a while, like if I beat him on a workout, I'm like, hey, I'm still here. I'm maybe old, but I'm not dead yet. And so it's more fun now. Like there might be a little internal trash talk, but, within our camp more than anything. So
can you beat them, the young guys?
Oh yeah. Every once in a while, it depends on what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fun. I mean, I don't know. That's the part that I love. Everybody loves the drama.
Yeah,
it seems like.
Love drama.
Do they, just like they do in basketball or anything? Brady's been doing it forever. Who's considered the GOAT of CrossFit? Or is it you?
I don't know. It depends on who you talk to.
Oh, okay.
I mean, obviously,
opinion.
Yeah, it's all opinion. Like I said, if you had probably 3 or 4 people, Tia on the women's side is incredible, and then probably me and Matt on our side. There is going to always be that debate.
Yeah.
And here's the deal: if they're debating it, it's good for both of us.
Oh,
so
you're in the conversation.
You've got people that are massive Fraser fans that are always going to say one way, and then you got people that are my fans that are going to say the other way. So it's it's good for both of us. But it's fun. It is what it is.
Do you think that when you first started on your journey and started having success, were people trying to figure out what how you were training, or did you train in the public? Did people know what you're doing?
Yeah, I think, the social media thing was just now starting to take off. When I started, YouTube was a big thing. Like I watched so many videos of guys when I first started, and, had kind of my guys that I watched. We didn't have the media team that we had, so it wasn't as well documented. Now we do online training, and so people can actually follow exactly what I do. We didn't have that. And so I think, yeah, probably, but it was definitely like documented that, hey, Rich does a ton of volume and we don't know why. And, it's paid off, I guess. So
would you share what you did, or did you keep that to yourself?
Depend on time of the year,
Yeah.
like I had a ton of guys that were and are good friends of mine that were competitors of mine. And we would train, this time of year, especially, it would start getting not weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't want to let everybody know on your secrets, and not even that they were secrets. You look back and you're like, that wasn't that good of a, like it wasn't anything, I've done a lot of dumb things training. Like I wouldn't take it back because I learned a ton, but things that were almost pointless to do that were just almost like too hard for what I'd get up, and for me, I'd row 5K a day.
Yeah.
And it was a good base building, but then I'm like, I could have done, but at that time it was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I kept going these
mentally,
phases. Yeah.
it gave you an edge.
For sure it did. But then I'm like, it could have been so much more. Like I could have rotated
Productive.
machines. I could have, checked different things, and, having an exercise science background, you're like, oh yeah, this sounds good. Then you look back, you're like, that was so dumb. But I learned, you learned, you built some volume, you did, made your body, stronger in different ways, made more efficient. And so, but yeah, I guarantee, people were trying to figure out what I was doing. I had one of our buddies, Jason, he would write on his wall, "What's Rich doing?" And so he would always go out to the garage and like try to do more than what he thought I was doing.
To work harder, put in, sacrifice
Yeah.
more. Yeah. I think there's a good example too. Kobe talks about, and I can't remember who the player was, but they were going to play each other. And so the gym was open. So Kobe's in there shooting. Guy came in to warm up. Kobe stayed there till the guy did his whole thing, left. And then after he dropped like 40 some in the game. And then whoever the other player was said, "How long did you stay after I left?"
Longer than you.
Yeah, just till you were gone.
Just till you were gone.
So it's, I was wondering if it was like that if people are writing up their "What is Rich doing?" I mean, first of all, you're in their head,
right?
Because they're thinking about you instead of maybe
what they should be doing,
their skill set. Because I get that. Sometimes I go running and probably shouldn't run, but it's like, no, I got to sacrifice more. I want to run by these houses with everybody in their house, all warm and watching TV, and I can just be better. Like, pussy.
got you.
Yeah. So I get that. Yep. Sometimes it's sending a message.
For sure. Yeah. There'd be times where I'd be in the house, and this was really one of the reasons why I stepped away from individual was once we started having kids, like at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, I'd be like, oh, I didn't do enough today. I'm going to go get another 5K on the road or whatever it is, or go out in the garage. And I'm like, I can't do that when I have the kids, like it's just, they need to be front and center. And so that was why I stepped away as an individual, because I was obsessive. Like I was all consumed by winning and competing, and it started to like affect relationships, and not in a terribly poor way. And I wouldn't be in the situation I am, but I saw that and I was like, man, I can't do this when I have kids. Like I can't miss. Oh, I can't go on this trip because, I've got to train. Where it's like when I competed on a team, I could still train. I was still training the same amount, but mentally it was not as taxing, and I could let go a little bit, like, hey, going to row an extra 5K versus putting my kids to bed or give them a bath. I'm going to remember that more than I'm going to remember this 5K, So it was hard though too, like probably top of my career. I'm like, all right, it's time, but it was a mental grind. It's fun to win. It's, that's why we do it. But it got to the point where it was like, all right, you remember like when you were a kid at Christmas, you got pretty much everything you wanted. And then the next day you're like, man, Christmas is 365 days away. That's how it was. Like the next day I'd won the games.
Yeah.
I'm training again the next day.
Right.
We're taking a family vacation in September after the games are in August, and I'm training twice and 3 times a day just because it's what I did, And so it's just that was one of the main reasons I stepped away as an individual, and then team.
Isn't that the price of greatness?
It really is, though. Yeah,
I mean, you can't. People say, well, you should be balanced.
Yeah,
balanced in your family, balanced in.
There's no balance.
Not to be the best.
Not to be the best, and that's
you can be average and be balanced.
And I made that switch where I was like, I want to be the best dad. You know, like I've had my time.
Yeah.
And I can still provide for my family being on the team. I still made money doing the sponsorships and stuff like that. And I can still compete and scratch that itch. But to be the best in the world, singularly, I was going to have to sacrifice a ton. And would I've liked to probably do 2 or 3 more years as an individual? Yeah, but it was, for me, I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
And so, it was hard, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I probably had 3 or 4 more years of individual in me, physically, mentally, maybe not. I might have, be divorced and in a box somewhere, but
well,
it's turned out all right.
Yeah, no, you've done a great job. I mean, I don't know, everybody wants like the fairy tale script, and it seems like you've almost had it. I mean, you've had a run.
Good run.
You had a good run. You had the team run. Your brand is bigger than ever. You're still a beast. I would love to see you come back and now get a Masters win.
The Masters will be fun. I have this kind of secret, not secret anymore, but I've told other people kind of the sneaky goal of trying to win. So Masters category, you age up every 5 years. So I'd like to try to win at least one in each of the 5 years.
I see.
Just to be kind of like, hey, I did it all. I didn't do teen. They didn't have teen at the time.
Yeah.
But one of our good friends and trains with us, we were joking about it. He's done my life in reverse. He won the teen games and then is a firefighter now, where I was a firefighter and then won the games. So,
right.
But yeah, man, it's been a good run, like I said. And everybody always jokes and they're like, what do you do with your medals? And I'm like, they're in a drawer somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Like, they're in the closet. My wife almost threw them away one time when we were moving. Like, I'm like, hey, there's a plastic bag. It's heavy.
Yeah.
Look, and there's like 3 or 4 medals. So it's not about that. It's just, just want to win.
It's competition.
That's just what it is.
Oh, I think everybody, I mean, you don't even have to tell people that. People can watch you and see you compete and see the passion. And I mean, it's clear why you do it.
Yeah.
Just a born competitor. I saw a question. I put up a little question and answer for Rich Froning. Yeah, so somebody said, would you rather compete at the CrossFit Games or run the mountain every day?
Man, it's beautiful out here. Those trails are awesome. Those were fun. That was, if I could build into that, it was going to take me a little while, man. Like I said, one of the more impressive athletic feats I've seen is you running those miles. Just, I'm telling you, like, I know you're right here, but it was impressive just running up those freaking mountains. It was cool. So those were hard. Yeah,
you did great. So I mean, I was impressed. We did 20 miles.
Yeah, I've not done that in a long time.
I mean,
my problem is, like I've told you, like I've got this left knee that I tore my meniscus in 17. So I run, and if I run, it's on one of those air runners, those self-propelled treadmills. And so I need to just, I think, make myself like, hey, go out there and suffer a little bit and let that knee,
Yeah. Yeah, no, you did great.
It was fun. It was a ton of fun. It was beautiful. It was cool. Seeing Scott's hat with that ice was pretty hard too. It was pretty cool. Scott, our camera guy with Mayhem, he was sweating, and then the sweat would get to the brim of his hat, and then it made this sheet of ice underneath it. And so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, because I think it was 19 degrees. We're up on top of Spencer's Butte was our first summit we hit, and there's some snow and ice up there. It's just epic.
It was cool.
Scenery.
It was cool. Beautiful country.
It was the perfect day for me because you came out here again, as I said, so honored that you're here. But then we were able to get a bunch of miles in. Went to the bow rack.
Learned a ton. That was cool.
Wayne.
That was awesome. Wayne is an incredible teacher. Just can relay it and make idiots like me just to see what he's taught. And like I was saying before, that was self-taught. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to pull this thing back. And, I'm centered up and shoot. And so, I told you that I switched to left-handed this year, so I'm even more green on that. And he was just like, all right, here's what we're going to do. And once he said it the way, put it in my terms, my meathead terms, he's like, hey, how do you approach a barbell? And I'm like, oh, okay. So like, depending on the movement, I've got my checklist. And so having that checklist was incredible. And I'm like,
Just a lot to keep track
Oh,
of
dude,
when you're first
when I'm
doing
running
it.
that checklist, I'm like, oh, I missed a step. How do I go? I can't go back.
There's a lot of
so it was fun.
And you know how anything goes, but with archery specifically, all those little cues and checklists, those will all be subconscious.
Right. Once you get to that point.
Yeah, once you get the reps in. And then when that next bull comes out, killed a bull this year, which the video was awesome.
They did an incredible job, yeah.
But once that bull steps out on the next time, all those things all you remember is just that putting that pin where you want it to and slowly squeeze, and all those other things will take care of themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the reps.
Like once you put it in those terms, it makes perfect sense because like I don't even think about approaching a barbell anymore, depending on the movement. I'm just like, all right, here's my checklist. My feet are good. My hands go here. Grab, set, go.
And Wayne,
it makes sense.
Wayne says that, like he'll say pretty much the same. Set your feet.
Yep.
Get in your position. You're like approaching the bar. You got your bow on your hip.
Yep.
You got your hand put on the grip. You're setting yourself up for success and to release an accurate arrow. You did. I mean, I think that's why you're so good at what you do is you follow instruction. You get that there's a method to the madness.
Right.
And then we went out and implemented it 85 yards.
I wanted that 100 so bad.
I know.
I grazed it, which I don't understand how a balloon does not pop and it has a mark on it, but dang it.
Yeah, so close. But yeah, you still very accurate. I mean, your 100-yard group, you had that balloon.
I had one random every once in a while, but yeah.
But did great. And then, man, this training in here.
We got a little pump session. That was good.
Oh my gosh.
It was good.
That was so good. I mean, I loved every second of it. It was just a perfect day for me. It was like, I make this excuse that I want to do this podcast. I mean, it's for me.
Yeah,
it's for me to hang with
cool people and get to work out, man.
Best in the world, and I just can't tell you how much it meant to me. So I was also thinking, in your training now, you have all these athletes coming to Mayhem, right? And are they coming? Like you said, even people from other countries.
Yeah. So we've got. I want to say last year, this was training right before the games. We had like 5 or 6 countries represented, and we've got some athletes around the world, and they live where they're at. But now we're starting to get an influx of, like, we've got a guy, Guy, who lives in Brazil, or is from Brazil. Roman, he's from Russia. We've got another couple of girls. One's from Argentina. Another one from Brazil. So we're getting an influx, and it's fun. It's cool. It's it's having different people around and learning once again how to motivate people differently and it's the mentality of trying to get them to, like, they're like, all right, I've kind of got this 3 or 4 year goal of trying to win the games, and I'm like, no, your goal is to win it now. Like, we're not playing the long game. Like, you step into every competition trying to win. Like, that should be our mentality. Granted, you might not have the skills yet, but you're gonna try to. Like, I hate when people are like, oh, my goal is to make the games or win the games in 2024. I'm like, my goal was to win the games anytime I showed up. And so,
because your first time, didn't you get second?
I got second. Yeah. We don't talk about that one. There's 2 second places in those 10 teams that are 10 golds that we don't talk about. But that I actually, so in 17 when we got second, I hung the silver medal up next to the whiteboard. Whiteboards are a CrossFit thing.
Yeah.
The whiteboard.
I've heard about
every day in the barn. So everybody
has a reminder.
As we're writing up the workout, there's just a silver medal. Yeah. And I joked that after it was done, I was just gonna go bury it in the backyard, but it's somewhere in a sock drawer. But
I think that's what makes champions stand out, because some people are fine with that silver.
Yeah, everybody. When I got silver the first year,
pretty good.
Yeah, they're
Silver's
like
good.
we talked about this yesterday. Like, that first year messed me up. I growing up, I'd insert whatever it is. For me, it was baseball, and then after baseball, it was firefighting, and then after that, it was CrossFit. It was those things that had become who I was, and to have that completely, that rug pulled out, and have that failure. And people are like, you got second place your first year. You should be happy. I was not happy.
Yeah.
And like I said, that was kind of where my faith really took a different route and became forefront. But I think that is what makes us better too, is that you're not okay with second. down the road, I might be able to look back and be like, hey,
Yeah.
getting second was pretty cool. But at the time, it ate at me. I hated it.
Do you think, so you talk about faith, do you think that your intentions weren't as pure that first year and then they were, or you were more?
I don't know if, obviously, he wanted a little bit of pride of like, hey, I want people proud of me. And, but I really think having subconscious, whatever you want to say, having my identity be whatever I was in put way more pressure on me. And so having my switch being my identity in whatever I'm doing to Christ helped me compete from a better position. Because I hate the whole, if you're a Christian, you should be a less competitor. I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah.
I can compete from a better place because I know, hey, in the end, it doesn't, like as Lincoln Park would say, in the end, it doesn't really matter. But hey, I can compete and I can still be, a competitor.
Man of God.
There's not, that doesn't mean weakness. That's what I hate is this whole Christians are soft, that type of thing. No, Michael Chandler's not soft.
No.
And he's a Christian, and it's okay that, hey, there's a separation between the two.
He puts it, and I think how you are looking at it also, he puts it as fighting is this shiny object.
Yep.
So that's what gets people's attention to share the word.
These are my gifts. My gifts from God, the genetics, the upbringing that I've had is what everybody sees on the outside. Now I get to tell you about Galatians 6:14, and may I never boast in anything except for the cross of Lord Jesus Christ, which has been crucified to me and I to the world. I get to tell people about that because of the platform that I've been given.
Right. Yeah. So CrossFit's your shiny object. Gets people's attention, then shares what really matters.
Yep.
Yeah. I think, my buddy Roy too, and I mentioned this to Chandler, that's what he did. He said Bowhunting was his missions field.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't listen to him or respect him just on the surface, but because he's this amazing, badass mountain bow hunter, people would be like, oh, this guy,
what's up?
Well, maybe I should listen to what he has to say. And then he would talk about.
Right. Well, and that's the hard part is like, you want to have relationship miles with people instead of just being like, hey, what did Jesus do for you today? There's a relationship aspect up to it. And like, there's this, like, you got to have some time with people.
Right.
And so like I said, I think, like I've seen those things or read those articles where like, oh, Christians are weak. They shouldn't, like competitors, blah, blah, blah. But it's the exact opposite. I have a point of strength that I can compete from and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it's worked for me.
Yeah. Well, I would say so. Was there any times in your journey coming up where, I don't know, it seems like competition, it's easier not to compete sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there times where you had just like a tipping point that you recall?
Man, there's every day, there's a grind. You wake up, you're like, today I just don't feel like it's like you were talking about. You just get up and you go. And once you get going, once I get going, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And when winning is fun, but when you're expected to win, it almost doesn't become, it's a little less fun, and it's like you've got this target on your back and it comes with the territory now. Like anything you do now, it's like, oh, I'm going to beat Rich at this. And where I'm just kind of at the point in my career, I'm like, I got nothing left to like, I've got no ego about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like I've done it. And so, there were years of that and it just kind of adds up year after year, but it is what it is, it's just part of it. And part of me enjoys that. But part of me, there's days where I'm like, dang, it'd be nice to just like, maybe somebody be surprised that you win something, like.
Yeah. I think you're going to have that because Rich Froning is this larger than life. And so people are going to say it's always going to be
always.
It reminds me, I had the similar moment like Lance Armstrong ran Boston and it's like my goal was to beat Lance. He didn't even know who I was. Right. Didn't no clue. But how many other people like me were like, oh,
I'm going to beat Lance. I'm going to beat him.
So it's like that would probably be a little exhausting. It's like you're just trying to do new things and getting into mountain biking. That's a reason why I'm like, you know what? Nobody knows who the hell I am in mountain biking. Yeah.
But I can ride a mountain bike pretty good because I have the fitness side of it, but I have enough of a little bit of crazy, I need that adrenaline. And then bow hunting has been, for me, or hunting period, has been that, like we were saying yesterday, it's ultimate competition and nobody's watching. For me, my competitive everything that I do in competition is being watched, no matter what it is. And so being out there in the woods and competing with one of these guys, the hundreds that you have hanging in here, it's fun. It's just different. It's freeing. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but nobody's watching. There's no grind, and nobody knows except for you.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to keep pushing, And so it's just been fun. It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah. What's been the hardest part of the bow hunting journey?
I think the mental grind of it.
Because you've done a lot of hard things.
Yeah, done a lot of hard things.
The hardest things.
And honestly, this hunt last year, killing the bull, I mean, you look at it was 4 trips that took us, to actually harvest something. And so we're 22 days in the mountain when you look at it, and it's the last day of this hunt, and you're just mentally, there's so many, I was talking yesterday that, morning, you have your kind of different sections of hunting throughout the day. You have your morning, then your midday, and then your evening. And so middays, I like to, and the group that I go with, we'll go around and mess around in some heavy timber and just kind of creep, right? So I equate it to that. Like you hit some timber and you're up here. You're like, all right, senses are peaked here. There's a chance. And then you get through that timber and there's nothing. And you're just like, shit. Yeah. So then you get to the next heavy timber and you're like, all right, here we go. And then you're here. And then and so that just over and over and over for 22 days.
Yeah.
Having a couple, encounters, I had an encounter, 2 encounters with non-legal bulls the year before. We bumped a bull, bumped a group another time, had a buddy that just didn't take a shot. And I don't blame him, he just didn't feel comfortable with it. And then, so just all those replaying all those things, and then to have one walk out and stare at you for 10, 11 minutes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And just all that, the emotion of that, and then walking that thing out of there, which was like before that, the whole to that point had been like top 5 hardest things I'd ever done.
Yeah.
And then trying to get that thing out, that moved the whole experience up to the top of the list. One of the top of the list, like I can't really differentiate, like top 3, but it was in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah, tough.
It was hard.
Packing a bull out. Physically, mentally, emotionally. You're just like, all right, is this ever going to end? And then you get to the top of the hill and you can see down and you're like, all right, it's all downhill from here. Yeah.
And then downhill's almost worse. You're like, oh man, slipping. And
was there trail or like going over windfall?
Deadfall and just nasty, thick brush. We were in Route National Forest. So luckily this one we'd killed, it was at like 8,200 feet. Like earlier in the week, we were up around 11,000 feet.
Wow.
And so they'd been pushed down a little bit. And so we were down to 82. And man, it was, I forgot the exact elevation change and all that, but it was as the crow flies, was what we kept saying. It was about 2 miles from the truck, but it was just nasty, thick. And my heart rate thing tracker on my wrist, we stopped 3 or 4 times. Like you'd find a deadfall log and you just let that thing rest.
Yeah.
You're just sitting
Take
there.
a little
it feels
break
so good
off your shoulders and back.
I think we took like 3 breaks. And it took us 2 hours, and my heart rate was like averaged 141 and peaked at like 165. And you're just like, man,
that's a lot of work.
It was work, but so worth it.
Did you, like in the team environment for competition at the CrossFit, where you're kind of the leader? Were you? What was your role in packing that out? I mean, were you?
I was in the front,
keeping people fired up.
Nah, I think we were all just kind of
okay.
I think everybody was fired up. Everybody was a little like it was hard. Like
you say last day of the hunt.
Last day of the hunt.
Yeah.
It was, and so we were only going to hunt a half day that day too. So it was kind of our last day. Then we would drive into where I think we were flying out of Vail this time, and we'd stay the night in a hotel and kind of wash up because we had an early flight the next morning, and it was right at noon. This thing walks out, and then by the time we got out of the woods, I think it was 4 or 5 o'clock. That was when you're like, now we got to go pack up the trailer. Now we got to drive out. And then, man, we didn't get out of there till I think 9 o'clock, and we get to Vail, and you're just like, I need food. Yeah. Nothing's open. So we find McDonald's, and that was the best McDonald's I'd ever had. Like we don't do McDonald's much, but man, that quarter pounder was worth it. Of course.
Those fries are good too.
So good.
Did you get, what is it? That's not a Frosty. Did you get
I got a milkshake. Heck, just a regular milkshake, not a what McFlurry, I guess, is theirs.
Did you dip the fries in it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Dude, we had fries. I think we all got quarter pounders, double quarter pounders, fries. Yeah. And then we all kind of like looked at each other. I was like, everybody want another burger? So I went and bought everybody another McDonald's burger, high spender,
No apple pie?
No, we didn't get apple pie. I got another 20-piece nugget, split that. Okay. So we were, I mean, you know how it is. You come out of the mountains and you're just anything warm and not eating with a you can eat something with a fork or whatever.
Oh,
it's
that's
just like,
It's
granted,
just
this
good.
was McDonald's. It wasn't with a fork, but it was just good.
So
it was just good. Best McDonald's I'd had.
I mean, after you've killed a bull, you put in, so that was your 4th year, is that right?
4th year, yeah.
So much work.
So much.
I mean, that probably felt almost like winning the game.
It was an incredible, because it's so, like, as much as you don't do it, I don't do it for, oh, look what I did, look what I killed.
Yeah.
But when you come home and everybody's like, oh, so you didn't kill anything again?
Yeah.
You know, there's just these games. It's games that start playing in your head like, man, I suck. You know, like I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Right.
And so, probably the first couple of years we learned a lot and messed up a lot. But I that's the way I like to do it is, you know, I did go guided the first year in Montana. And then after that, we just kind of did it self-guided. And so, I have a buddy that knows a lot about elk hunting, David Curtis, and then Steven, one of my good friends, he helps a ton, and we're kind of got a collection now of guys that we've done it together, and we've learned a bunch together and messed up a bunch together. So it's fun, and it was cool to share that with Steven wasn't there, but Dave was there, and then Scott being able to document the whole thing, and Scott, he ran the whole 20 miles with me yesterday with a freaking camera, and so he's always going to be there, like there's no quit in Scott either. So it was cool, and having TJ and Tyler there to help pack it out too. So it helps.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. I mean, so can you imagine packing out? What if you're by yourself?
So that's what Dave hunts a lot a himself. And so he said he killed a bull one time 7 miles. And so he packed out one a day. It was cold enough.
Yeah.
He had a mule deer tag on the last day as he's walking out. He shoots
Killed
a
a buck.
mule deer. So he has to pack that out. And I'm just like, you were talking about it yesterday, hunting by yourself. Like, that's like a whole new level for me. Like, I just there's just something about the brotherhood, the camaraderie of being in the woods, the shared suffering. I think that's what the draw of CrossFit is, the shared suffering and being able to have that. And so, that for me, the woods too, is that like we grind together, and, you sit down and you're like, you recap kind of all the shitty stuff that went on in the day, but it's so much fun too, so
It's so fun. Yeah. The shared suffering. It's the solo hunts. It is tough. And not only just packing things out, but just
the grind,
living life in the mountains by yourself. We're social animals or beings or whatever you want to call it, but we're used to being around and communicating. So you take that part out of your life, and that can be the biggest challenge for a lot of people in the mountains, because you never feel more alone than when you're up there by yourself.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And I remember times where, the one I was thinking of specifically, I was up in the mountains. Truett, my middle child, he hadn't even started talking yet. I don't know why he didn't talk forever.
Trice is the same way.
Yeah,
he's the same way. Something was wrong with him.
We can guess on why, but I was in the mountains. It was kind of spitting snow, and I'm thinking about, I think he's maybe 18 months, a year and a half old, and it's just like you're thinking, why am I here?
Why am I here? Why am I away from my family?
I wonder what the family's doing? And it's just that draw, just to be comfortable and just to be around people who care is pretty strong.
Yeah.
But man, if you can overcome that and then succeed, it's life-changing.
I can't imagine.
I mean, it's life-changing. Just you killing that bull, because it is so hard, that's life-changing in itself. But the hunting journey is so many life lessons that I feel like get watered down in regular society, or take decades to learn, where you can learn on you were 22 days.
22 days.
How much life lesson did you learn in 22 days?
Lot.
Where on the outside world, or what I call in society, it's like, when are you ever that miserable? Push that hard? Question yourself that much?
Never.
And it's like, that's where the hunting journey can be so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you learn a lot about yourself.
Well, and
it's a society now that instant gratification. You're always seeking instant. We got phones, we got all this stuff. We're looking, hey, there's like this, you get endorphins from checking your phone and you have a message, and to not have, it's incredible not having a phone. The hard part, I guess, for me is having young kids. I'll carry along a Garmin that I can just, hey, emergencies, or like, hey, I'm still alive. My wife wants like every 8-hour check-in, like, hey,
I see,
you're still alive. And so having that, but then no real cell phone connectivity, no nothing, no emails, man, there's just something to it, you know? And then there's just something like it's almost like we're supposed to be like that. And then when you harvest something, you're like, oh yeah, this is like, it just felt
how it's
natural.
meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
I mean, man has always hunted.
Always. And that's what gets me about people that are anti-hunting. Like, man has been part of the food chain for a long time. You know that, right? And
Forever.
And these animals die way worse deaths.
Oh yeah.
Overbreeding or overpopulation, or wolves kill things pretty viciously.
Death in the wild is not easy, not pretty. It's, a perfect arrow like what you released on your bull. That bull went 50 or 60 yards, I think you
Folded
said.
up, yeah.
I mean, death in the wild is never going to be anywhere near that. That's a merciful death, in my opinion. And you offer that animal that because of your hard work and making a good shot. In the wild, it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
It's going to be drawn out. It's going to be starving, predators, weather, something. And so, I mean, as a hunter, I like the fact that we accept that animals are dying for our survival.
Right.
Animals are dying for everybody's survival. Even if you're the most staunch vegan, still
animals die. Wherever
they live in a house, where there's animals, where this house is right now, this land had to be cleared. It displaced animals, killed animals. Whatever bread you eat, the agricultural, you drive over or around where fields are being harvested, and there's buzzards flying all around because all those rodents, birds, different things are dying. So yeah, I mean, life causes death. That's just how it goes.
You become the dirt when you're dead. We're going to be part, it's just part of the cycle.
Yeah. Hunters accept that. And so we've talked about that, anti-hunters, they're pretty vocal, but 97% of people in America eat meat.
Yeah.
And so, man,
we were talking about it yesterday. I think I kind of, your following is predominantly hunting. Okay. Mine is not.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be who I am.
Yeah.
And I think part of the, I did poke the bear a little bit with my post. I believe I called people that I said, vegans, vegetarians, I can respect, I can respect, your opinion. We don't have to agree.
Yeah.
And then I think that's the problem with our society right now is we can't agree to disagree. Hey, you live your life and I'll live mine. And then the one that gets me is people who eat meat, not people who eat meat and don't hunt. Hey,
yeah,
that's your
right.
People who eat meat and are against hunting, I called them cowards because, hey, it's not easy to take a life. I think people just think that you're like, there's a bit of remorse. And I never really experienced that until, like I told you, my hunting upbringing was turkey is where I kind of got my start. And so I remember killing the first turkey and I was like, dang, I kind of feel bad.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, but this is going to go, like, I'm going to eat this. My kids are going to eat this. My wife will not eat it, but it's part of life. Death is part of life.
Yeah.
And as long as, like you're saying, you do it as humanely as possible and it's going to be a way better death than, something else getting a hold of it.
Yeah. Well, I do respect how you've, been unapologetic in hunting and explaining to your followers, because it's really easy. People want everybody to like them.
Yep.
They don't want to rock the boat at all. So they'll just kind of water it down. And you say how you feel.
A good friend of mine, Jim Hensel, said if 50% of people love you and 50% of people hate you, you're doing it right. You can't please everybody.
Right.
And I'm just gonna live and try to show people, hey, this is how we live.
Yeah, and it's odd because the CrossFit community, I mean, that muscle has to be fed on something.
Yep, it does. That's my favorite. Is like you look at people who comment, and then I don't have social on my phone anymore. But if you would go back and like every once in a while, I'll check and just see off somebody else's phone. I'm like, let me see what this comment. Oh, they're eating a hamburger.
Yeah.
Like chill out.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. It's but that's the way it goes. I mean, there's going to be people disconnected from food source in society. That's just the way it goes. But if we can explain it better and maybe paint a clearer picture,
educate.
We're not going to get the psychos on the animal rights activist side. We'll get the people in the middle, and they'll be like, wait, I remember reading something from Rich Froning.
Right.
And he talked about being a provider and merciful and this and that, and made a lot of sense.
Well, I think too with like the videos, like you show that, hey, you realize how much or how hard we worked. It wasn't like we're not driving around in a truck.
Yeah.
And, there's something. Let me go shoot it.
Yeah.
Like I think people just see this like kind of redneck mentality. Oh yeah, let me go out. That's what they think hunters are. And then I'm like, let me explain to you, go watch this video and see how much we suffered and like worked. And it wasn't, everybody's like, oh, this defenseless animal. I'm like, defenseless? We're in their territory.
Right.
They have all these senses. They know the land. Like it's not as cut and dry as people think.
No.
I think they think.
And getting within bow range of an animal that's hunted pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Trying to survive every day. We live in the mountains for one day and it would just be one of the hardest nights ever. They're out there every single day. They're so tough, so dialed, so tuned in. We're going into basically their home and trying to get within bow range and then release a perfect arrow. There's a reason why success rates are so low.
So low.
10%, under 10%.
10%. Yeah.
And that means, 9 out of 10 guys are failing. So yeah,
I've been that guy.
It's no gimme. It's no gimme. So what's your goals like? So right now we talked about the games, but what's your goals moving forward just in the life of Rich Froning?
Yeah, I think, obviously my kids, I don't know, you can't really put a goal on just producing good kids and making sure that they're, but I think you've done a good job. So that's a goal of mine, is being a good husband and father.
So it's more about them than me. I tried to screw them up.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
They overcame me.
We always joke because our youngest she's just sweet and just, you tell her to do something and you try to like with other two, it's heavy handed. You're like, hey. And with Violet, you're like, hey. And then she's like, okay. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I even raised my voice with you. I'm like, what did we do so wrong with the first two that we did with? But anyway, so, that's obviously a thing that I want to, that's kind of forefront every day. And then mountain biking, we're doing, the goal right now is to do the Leadville 100. I want that big belt buckle. It's a 9 hours. So
you have to finish in under 9 hours?
Under 9 hours.
Okay.
So that's the goal right now. I'm doing a couple mountain bike races to lead up to that. We're doing a 12-hour in Mesa Verde, and then doing a 24-hour in Amarillo. Relays, partner relay or team relays. Those are big things. And then, man, I want to get it back out west next year and hunt a couple of times, get boots on the ground. And elk that's kind of my passion right now. But eventually, I'd like to, say I've killed a moose or, caribou or something like that, get up to Alaska just because I want to go to Alaska. But man, last year and I was talking to Hill and she's like, if you didn't have me or the kids, what do you think you'd be doing? And I was like, I think I'd be going from September to November and out west, So there's something about it and really want to pursue that and keep doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's you shoot that RX-7 well. I mean,
I'm gonna start shooting more. So now that I've got my checklist, I can just it was hard before that. You're like, am I even doing this right? You know, I'm shooting arrows and they're pretty decently grouped, but now I have like things to think about, and for me that makes sense. There's some things that I can. All right, I know I need to settle a little bit more, let my pins rest on them, versus just as soon as that pin hits hole, and so. Now that I have some cues and things to think about, I think I'll not that I didn't enjoy it before, but now I'm like, I feel like I'm making progress. Before, where I was like, I'm just going out there shooting arrows, and I don't really know how to assess my progress other than how are my groups, you know? But am I really doing everything the same way? Now I can kind of like, okay, I've got these things.
Well, that's the biggest advantage to having a good archery pro shop. Yeah, like the bow rack. Man. It's like a lot of people, there's hunters all over the United States. There's not a lot of great pro shops.
Wayne. If anybody's passing through Eugene, Oregon, go over there, because that was, like I said, one of the most helpful things I've ever been through as far as technique on a bow, for sure, or definitely on a bow. Yeah,
well, he's just been through it. Yeah, over. See, I think he bought the bow rack, I think 30 years ago.
Yeah, it shows.
We were pretty young, and he's just helped thousands and thousands of people. So every guest who I have come in, I always take them there.
That was a huge ad for sure. Like we've got people in CrossFit that you're like, oh man, go to that guy or that girl, and they coach well. Like we've got the Bergeners, they're a family of he was Olympic lifting coaches, and they're just, you just know. Yeah. You know when somebody can connect, and that's kind of the beauty of what we do with CrossFit is you just got people that you're like, oh, they got it. They know how to coach, they know what to see, they've got the eye, and so man, that was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you did a great job following instruction. Wayne gave a great job delivering it. Man, it was just, and then we saw the end results out there. I was going to end up, I have a question I was wondering. Do you think that mental toughness can be developed, or do you think you just have it?
I think, I always get this, like, how do I become a better competitor? Mm-hmm. And it's just for me, I'm like, I don't really know how to answer that.
Yeah.
And mental toughness, I guess, goes along with being a competitor. They're almost interchangeable. Mm-hmm. I think maybe at an early age, that can be developed mental toughness. I think as we age, it gets a little bit harder. If you're like, the more time you have in comfort or being soft, and I think even mental toughness can kind of come in waves and go, you know, like the more you can get comfortable, and that's, I think that's people like us that like being uncomfortable. There's probably a little bit of mental something going on there, a little like we were talking about yesterday, a little abuse of some sort. But yeah, I think it needs to be developed at an early age. And with the older you get, I think it's harder to, like you spent so much time on the easier side of things, that if you don't catch it early enough, that it's going to be hard to develop. I think as you get older, it's harder to develop. And so if you can start it at a younger age, like I said, that's the main reason for the farm for us when we started Froning Farms, was I wanted my kids to have something they had to take care of, and we were going to do together. And I guess it's been about 3 years ago. Spit and snow, kind of crappy night. It's wet, and it's got to go put out hay. And so at this time, now we're soft. We got a closed cab tractor, but at that time I just had a 44R John Deere open cab. Yeah. And I'm walking out, put my boots on in Lakeland. My oldest is like, "Where are you going?" I gotta go put hay out. And she's like, "I want to go." And I'm like, "Lakeland, it's nasty. It's cold. It's wet." She's like, "I'm going." Yeah. And man, it was just, I'm like, all right, this is it. This is why I do this, and this is why we're doing it, and why, you put this in. It's because she was out there. We were out there for an hour and doing different things, going to check fences and stuff like that. And she was just right there, in her little boots and her, one of my jackets, I think a huge jacket. And she's just right there with Dad. And, she's, I think at that time, 6 years old. And I'm like, all right, this is it. So, and it's cool. That's what we get to pass on, and that's the next generation, right?
Well, what about when you want your kids to develop toughness and you say, "Hey, I'm going to need help," and they say, "No, I don't want to go"?
Oh, they're coming. No, you're coming. Yeah. And if you're not going to come, I'm going to find something else for you to do that is less desirable as well. And that's what it was when I was a kid. It was like, all right, either you go find something to do out in the woods, out in the yard, or I'm going to find you something to do. And so for me, that was like, all right, we're going out in the woods and building forts or doing whatever, or wrecking my four-wheeler. I think my dad would have rather probably him find me something to do than the money he spent fixing four-wheelers from me breaking things. But that's what he always says, is I was good at breaking shit.
But he would make you go do stuff.
Oh yeah.
Get outside.
Oh yeah. So this is one of the times he's like, "Hey, go out in the woods," and he just bought me a 22. And so we're out in the woods, and we're going to go hunting, right? We're going to hunt squirrels and see one squirrel. And so we get back to the barn, and there's on the power wires, there's the telephone boxes. Yeah. Those black boxes. Yeah. Well, it's a good target for a 12-year-old boy.
I wonder if I could hit that.
So I'm just pop. Oh, nice. Pop. Shoot probably 10 holes in it, right? We go back out in the woods, and I've got a BB gun this time. I don't remember why I had the BB gun. We come walking up, and the phone company's there. Oh. And they're like, "You been shooting holes in this?" I was like, "No, I can't shoot holes in it with this." And my dad's like looking at me like, they're like, "This looks like a 9mm or something or whatever." And so Dad's like, "Let me see that pellet gun." He's trying to shoot holes and no holes in it. Yeah. And so he's like, "Did you shoot this with this?" And I was like, "No."
Wasn't a lie.
Wasn't a lie. A couple of days later, he's like, "You shot that with that 22, didn't you?" And I was like, "You asked if I shot it with a pellet gun." And so surprisingly, I never got, he's like, "You didn't lie to me, so I can't get mad at you." He's like, "But don't effing do that again." Like just doing dumb stuff.
Oh, it was the detail. He didn't ask the right question. It's not your fault.
That's what he told me. He's always told me, he said, "Never lie." Yeah. He said, "But only answer the questions you're asked,"
So you think your mental toughness was developed from your dad?
I think my mom and my dad. My mom and my dad are the two hardest working people in the room. Okay. Like my mom never sits still. Scott can attest to this. She's like, I always equate them to sharks. They're just always moving. If they stop moving, they'll die. Both of them are like that. My dad's just like, when I was a kid, it'd be like, oh, you know, this project. I'm like, all right, we got this project. There's no more projects after this. And then he'd come up with another project. My mom was the same way. She would like edge around the trees and then like just random stuff. I had to pick up apples from underneath apple trees because she didn't want to run over them with the mower because there's wasps. She'd make me go out there with a wheelbarrow and pick up apples and throw them in the woods, you know, like just dumb stuff.
Yeah.
She was one of 9, farmer kid. And so, you know, both of them, like I said, are I would say they're the base. And then that was just kind of, reiterated by my high school baseball coach. Just mental toughness and working hard and outworking people. And, you know, somebody's always working. And so it just, I think, like I said, that was that perfect storm of that side was my parents and then Coach Chaffin for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So the genetics and the talent is one thing, but without that mental approach of outworking everybody.
Outworking people.
Yeah.
I can remember when I worked at the fire department, you know, like after 5 o'clock's your time, you know, so you're there for 24 hours, but after 5 o'clock, you could go do whatever you want. From 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock when I'd go to bed, I'd go work out. Just not CrossFit because I didn't really do CrossFit at the time, just kind of what we did last night, but just one after the other after the other. The guys would be like, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. This ain't going to get you anywhere. Blah. I'm like, I just can't sit still. I don't, you know, this is what I want to do. I enjoy this. And then I'm like, hey, it did pay off. And, you know, they're like, working out's never going to get you anywhere. You just need to come out here and sit and watch TV or do whatever. And so it's cool to look back at some of those moments. And
some people, they don't want to see you working hard because it puts pressure on them. So I get that part. Yeah. I mean, I'm always curious on, you know, with your kids being the age they are, and you know, everybody wants their kids to be tough, and it's like you said something that reminded me of one time. True, my other son, he skipped cross country practice, so I got home from work and I said, "Why aren't you at cross country?" And he's like, "I just wasn't feeling good." I go, "You look fine." He's like, "I feel better now." I go, "Oh, okay. Well, get in the truck. We're going to go to Pisgah." And so we did 10 miles. It was raining over there, and he never missed
another practice.
But then on the flip side, it's not like I have all the answers on because I remember Tanner one time said he had a sore throat, and I'm like, "So you had a basketball game, you're going to play?" Turns out he has strep throat. So it's like,
I've been there.
I've made every mistake as a parent, and that's why it's funny hearing these stories.
Rub some dirt in it. You know,
I mean, I don't know. I put way too much emphasis on being physically tough. Yeah. And then I was just like, God, maybe I should have talked more about reading books. Never asked them one time about any book they read.
There was never any book. You know, now I actually enjoy reading, but I didn't. I think until 30, I don't think I actually read a book cover to cover because it was always like, I'll read the Cliff Notes, and then it turns out, hey, I'm a horrible audible learner. Like I just can't listen well. I can't concentrate on speech. If I read something though, I can retain it infinitely better. And I'm like, wow, you idiot. You know, like I had good grades and stuff, but I could have been so much better had I actually done, you know, the work. And so it's just one of those things you got to figure out, you know?
Yeah,
you can only parent so much. Then it's on them, you know, that's what I keep telling myself. I'm like, come on, we got to start parenting yourself. You're 8.
Well, I'm sure you're probably way better than me, but I was a terrible parent with my oldest, and then actually turned the corner and was probably too soft on my daughter. Now she reads all the books. She makes up for all of us. But being a parent is such a challenge.
It's a challenge, but it's the best job on the planet.
Love
you know,
it.
and you know, to come back to faith, like I never knew what unconditional love was until I had kids.
Yeah.
And then you're like, those kids can be the meanest, rottenest thing. Like I was saying, Trice, he's not vicious or anything. He's just wide ass open, and he's an idiot. He's a boy. You know, he just does. He could break a tank with a rubber hammer, and I'm just like, what do you do? You know, like, Dad this, Dad that. Hey, Dad, and I'm like, what?
He's got a big personality.
I love you, Dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I'm such a jerk, you know. And so it's just all my kids are like that. They're so much fun, but yeah, it's being a parent's hard, but it's fun. It's fun, but it's hard.
And I couldn't imagine life without kids.
No,
I mean, feel like the luckiest person ever to be the dad to my kids. Yeah. So I understand that for sure. Man, let's again, great honor. Thank you so much for coming to Oregon and lift, run, and shooting with me.
Yeah, appreciate
Dude,
it.
I
man.
never thought it would
It
happen.
was a dream for me too, man. We've looked up to you for the last, especially, first time I heard you was on Rogan, and then after that, kind of followed you, and man, it's been an honor for us too. So we appreciate you. And when you sent that text, hey, you want to come out? I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. So love it.
Thanks for kicking my ass in the gym last night.
Thanks for kicking our ass on the run.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we offered both something new.
Yeah,
in that regard.
like I said, the option's always open to come to Cookeville too. So
I know,
we'll have some fun. We won't make you do any CrossFit. We'll just have some fun. We got a big open gym to just mess around, and we got runners, we got trails, we got all kinds of stuff. So we can do all this, but in Cookeville, and give you a little taste of that. So take it on the road. There we go. We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. What we're going to do, and I do want to come out there and train with you.
Come on.
It'd be an honor to do
Love
that
to
as well. So what we've been doing at the end of these episodes is I usually give somebody a new bow. You already had
one, yeah.
Evan
Great
at Hoyt
RX,
already
yeah.
hooked you up
Yep.
with the sweet Hoyt. So what we're going to do is we're going to give away 3 bows to the listeners.
There we go.
And how you can enter to win this giveaway is going to be kind of random, but you have to leave a comment or a review on this podcast on all platforms. So do that. We'll pick a few people, give them a brand new Hoyt.
There we go. Sound? Love it. Man, that's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Rich.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, brother.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Keep hammering.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault, they want someone to blame. They sent their hate, it fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough, I am the change, the fuel in dirt. Feeling like Cam Haynes. Oh, give me the mods, nobody wants, I'll give you my heart. I came to work.